Welcome back to another episode of the Protein Bros podcast, guys. We have an awesome guest on today. His name's Andrew Helmick. He is the proud owner of Pride Fitness and Pride Sports and Performance. He's also a former professional athlete, had a really awesome career with Lindenwood, and then went on to play for the St. Louis Rams, as well as in the Arena Football League for a couple teams there. His story is very inspiring. He has a lot of perseverance, a lot of grit. Really enjoyed getting to know him and getting to hear his story, and I think you guys will too. Let's get right into the episode. I was a massive Rams fan, so I read all about you.
Okay.
Back then.
Hopefully, all good things, right?
Well, you were talking about Tony. What's his face?
Tony Softly.
I would read his. I was an Athletic subscriber as well as Bleach Report, and so I used to say I was such a big Rams fan that if one of the players were to tweet that they took a dump, it's I read that too. You know what I mean? It's just, I was one of those mega fans. But I grew up loving football, playing football, and the Rams were obviously my team. I grew up in St. Charles, and so one of the cool things that I got to do, my dad did business with the Rams organization. He sold industrial supplies, so toilet paper, random stuff. But my dad always would do sweetheart deals for the Rams, just so we could say he worked with the Rams, And so when I was in middle school playing football, it was when they were the greatest show on turf. So all this to be said, them moving was a tragic day in my life. And then I moved to Kansas City.
I converted him.
Yeah, I moved to Kansas City years and years later. And I was like, man, I can't just jump teams. I don't, it's not like that.
You converted at the right time, and it's the right team to jump to. They're in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah.
You got no one else to cheer for.
Yeah.
You get Patrick Mahomes, Travis.
It worked out well.
It was before Patrick Mahomes had been drafted. So it was a year before. Yeah. It was when Alex Smith it was his last year that was a really good year for him.
Mm-hmm. All that to be, so I grew up loving the draft because we got invited to the draft parties. That was always one of those events where it's if you do business with the Rams, you're able to come, right? So I show up and I would get to, whenever they would do these draft parties, they'd have players there to sign autographs and stuff. So sixth grade me is just psyched. And all that to be said, I just started following the draft a lot more than most people do.
Yeah. And so it's absurd what he can rattle off about the draft. He definitely knew that you were a signed free agent.
Who was your favorite draft pick you ever got to meet?
Man, you know what? That's a good question. I've never even thought of that. Let me think on that for a second. I got to meet a lot of them.
Chris Long's got to be at the top of the list.
I didn't get to meet him.
Oh
no, I didn't get to meet him. Especially because I was older then, right? When we drafted Chris Long, I might have been in high school or later.
Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, were those draft guys?
No, Torrey Holt was the year of 99 when they won the Super Bowl.
Uh-huh.
And we weren't doing business with them yet. That's when my dad thought, oh, it'd be a good, So I would say they didn't have a ton of great draft picks during that era, and this is pre-Les Snead, right? There was a wide receiver that now I can't think of his name, but he went to Wisconsin, I believe. He was a third-round draft pick. He was cool. He was really cool.
But talking about the white guy?
Yeah, tall receiver.
Oh, my God. I got to meet him when I was at Rams camp.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gosh. Someone's got to look this up.
I know. Luke's on it. Luke's on it.
Right now.
We'll think of it, but that's not him.
Nope.
Just think of it's a 6'5" one.
I do know Derek Stanley though.
But anyways, yeah, he was just a really nice guy. Out of everybody that I met, that was the absolute coolest. It was James Laurinaitis.
Yeah,
James Laurinaitis was.
He used to shop with us in St. Louis.
He shopped at our stores.
Yeah.
You want to talk about an intimidating human to line up against when I'm in the slot?
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, okay, you got an in route, and I look across, and
you come right across the middle.
His neck is just sitting there right there, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to run around over there.
Dude, he won the what's the Dick Butkus Award?
Yeah,
best linebacker in all college football.
And he's intense too. So not only is his neck as big as most people's thighs, he's intense at practice. And it's just different.
So when I got to meet him, it was actually in our store. I was working a location in Chesterfield for a week. I was just up there helping out, training, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I've never been starstruck before. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, this is James Laurinaitis walking into our store right now. And I'm just by myself. It's at the early morning. There's no other employees. It's just me and him having a one-on-one. And I'm like, dude, what was because the lockout had just ended. Yeah. What year was the lockout? You remember?
So that would have been my junior year because Danny Amendola and Johnny Hecker used to come up and do punt practice punting and catching punts at Lindenwood. So it was the spring of my junior year when that happened.
When that lockout happened. Yep. And just for our listeners, we're sitting here with Andrew Helmick, former NFL wide receiver, now awesome gym owner, sports performance coach. The list will go on. We'll get into all of it. We're just having some fun down memory lane. But when it comes to all these players you've met, we got tons of stories we can ask about. But to be around players like Chris Long, Tavon Austin, Janoris Jenkins, how does that, like, what does Jeff Fisher do to help make that culture and that locker room mesh? Because there's just all walks of life in there. And Jeff Fisher was the head coach for everybody that's a Chiefs fan. Jeff Fisher was the head coach that actually replaced Steve Spagnuolo, who was now the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs and has won a couple Super Bowls with us, and everybody loves him here in Kansas City. But his only head coaching experience was with the Rams, and he had this thing called the 4 Pillars. You familiar with that one?
No.
So the 4 Pillars was like his
Fisher did?
Yeah. Oh, okay. No, sorry. Steve Spagnuolo did.
Okay.
And I'll never forget, Tony wrote this in one of his articles. It was when we drafted Janoris Jenkins. He said the last pillar that Steve Spagnuolo left at Rams Park was taken out on a flatbed truck that day. Because there is no character in the span.
No, he was a different breed.
It was a pretty strong thing to say, but like that guy, I think Janoris had gotten kicked out of Florida, if I remember correctly, had to finish his college at like Southern Alabama.
Yep.
And was a top 15 talent, as they said, but I think he went all the way to the second round.
He was an amazing athlete. And he was a good teammate too. That's the thing, is he was a great teammate. You couldn't understand anything he said. But yeah, he was just a different breed. He's from I think some part of Florida where they like have cane sugar, and that's where the Jackrabbit nickname came from, because they would go hunt jackrabbits in the cane sugar. And there was a receiver for the Chargers who also, his nickname wasn't Jackrabbit, but it was something like that as well. He was from that same area, but you couldn't understand anything they said. Like I was saying earlier, at practice, he'd be
he sounded like one of those dudes from Home Alone whenever he couldn't cuss. I'm talking about Joe Pesci. He's like, Frederick, whenever he gets hit with something.
It was terrible.
I was thinking about the dude from Waterboy.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Cajun Man or whatever.
I played football in junior college, and like your story, the way that you were talking about how there's a lot of troublemakers that basically got kind of put on your team. It was very similar to in my college experience. And we had a guy that played for us that was from Alabama. He's from Quitman, Alabama. And it was the same thing. And he was a linebacker with me, and he would call plays, and I'd just be like, "What, dude, what was that again? Like, you run that by me again?"
Yeah. Can you give me a hand signal?
I was like, I'm from a suburb of Kansas, so I mean, I can't understand what you're saying, dude.
Janoris had jinkinisms, and anything he would say in team meetings, there was a huge whiteboard with all the different plays we're running. The coaches would write down what they thought he just said, because no one understood him, and so there were jinkinisms, and everyone just had to guess, what did he just say?
Yeah, it became a game.
Yeah, but he was a good teammate. He's a good teammate, and he'd always tell me like, "Hey, these are the cues that you're giving me, that I know what route you're running." So, he was a different breed of human, but he was still a good teammate.
Yeah.
Now back to the culture question. What did you guys do to gel? Those personalities are so different. There's 53, obviously, on the roster. Plus, you got the practice squad. Back then, was it 8 on the practice squad?
The practice squad was much smaller. I think it was 7, and then they expanded to 8.
It's like 12 or 16 now, I think.
Yeah, you get to keep 2 quarterbacks or something like that. Jeff Fisher was known as a player's coach, and I got to see that firsthand. Coach Fisher did a really good job of prioritizing rest. He'd give us the weekends off. He'd give us locker room breaks for an hour when other teams didn't. When other teams are tackling each other, Coach Fisher did a really good job of making sure we were rested. And I think that's kind of where the culture came from, was he took his players' healthy, safety, spirituality, everything was first for him. As long as you guys are doing good, we're going to do good as a team. And then we definitely had a culture of offense versus defense the year I was there. Our defense was really talented. I mean, you can go through the list. There's all pros all over the place. And that offense had a lot of high draft picks: Sam Bradford, Tavon Austin, Stedman Bailey, Jared Cook.
So Brian Quick,
Chris Gibbons, Zach Stacy led the SEC in rushing.
Robert Havenstein at right tackle.
Yeah, we had Jake Long, the left tackle from Michigan. We had, our offense should have been amazing that year, but we definitely had a culture of our defense is going to be a top 5 defense, and our offense, can you keep up with what our defense is going to do for us? So I think the culture was definitely good as a team. Kendall Langford.
D tackle.
Yep. Who's the D end? I sat next to him in team
Robert
meetings.
Quinn.
Robert Quinn is who I sat next to in team meetings.
That dude's a freak. That dude's an athletic freak.
Dude, he was incredible.
Absolute freak.
Freak of nature. And so in team meetings, when I walked into my first ever team meeting, the rookies, what are we going to do? Where are we going to sit? We're going to get hazed. So I'm walking up and I sit down next to someone. He's like, can't sit here. Walk down, sit down, can't sit here. I'm looking around the room and I know I'm running out of time to find a seat. And I'm like, oh man, I'm like the last guy standing. And I look over and Robert Quinn's seat is next, it's open. And I find out why. Because his arms are so long that they would like sit in the seat next to you. And so basically the whole season I would just sit like this in staff meetings because Robert Quinn's arms were so long and he was just a freak of nature. But that defense was loaded with all pros everywhere.
Yeah, the whole D line was first round draft picks.
Yeah.
Michael Brockers.
Yep.
D tackle.
Laurinaitis, we had the linebacker from Georgia who was supposed to be a top 5 pick. Got a DUI, I think a couple nights before the draft, fell from Georgia.
Witherspoon, something Spoon.
No. Ended up going to the Giants and I think being an all-pro there too.
Yeah. I mean, like, dude, O is his first name.
Gosh darn it, what is that guy's name?
Yeah.
But
I'm thinking of Will Witherspoon, but that's not him.
No.
He went on to play for the Giants and got a huge contract. Got a second contract, which, rare to find. But
Janoris Jenkins, all-pro corner.
Went from safety to linebacker.
Cortland Finnegan, all-pro slot corner. We had our third corner was Tremaine Johnson. He'd be an all-pro corner. I mean, our defense was just loaded. So I think the team culture was really good because Jeff Fisher always prioritized our health. But there was definitely like the defense versus offense. That kind of culture was built.
Yeah. So let's back up a little bit, man, because we're talking about your career.
Alec Ogletree.
There we go, Ogletree.
Career in the NFL and basically. So how did you get to that point? What did you grow up? Playing sports. Let's get into your background a little bit because I feel like the how you got there is an important story.
Tons of perseverance in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So grew up single mom, not a lot of money. Sports was my entire life. She'd take me to every game, never missed anything, and I always saw sports as my outlet to do something next in my life. So I ran track, played football, baseball. Played basketball, soccer, cross country, did everything I could just to play sports and stay active. And as I kept getting older, I thought, man, I'm good enough to play college sports, but is it going to happen? I go to Winnetonka High School. Not a lot of guys are coming in to recruit Winnetonka at the time. And so my senior year, a lot of MIAA recruiters are coming in and they're watching my film and they're like, hey, you're a good athlete, but I don't think we're not going to bring you on a visit. So my hope starts to dwindle a little bit that this maybe isn't going to happen. I'm going to join a pipe fitters union or something like that. And then Lindenwood came in right before signing day. And Lindenwood, Coach Yoakley liked my film. He saw something in me. I was like, I actually kind of believe in this kid. Truman State came in. They liked my film. I go on an official visit to Truman State first. I get there. The head coach loves me. But he's like, hey, man, your ACT's not that good. I'm kind of like a Winnetonka kid my first 2 years of high school, and I don't take school that very serious. So I didn't have the academics to get into Truman State, which stink because that coach really liked me. And it was D2 football, so I probably would have taken it. So I take my visit to Lindenwood, and I get down there, and the head coach sells me the dream, right? It's NAIA. They can give out all these different scholarships. And I'm like, I had never heard of this school, St. Louis. I don't think I'm going to play college sports. Coach Clemens, my head coach at the time, was just the head coach over at Oak Park, takes me out to Quiznos, convinces me to sign my scholarship like the week before signing day. I sign. They signed 50 guys that year, put 48 guys on the signing day list. I was one of 2 guys that they left off the list, me and a kicker who never showed up. So I went into this school that I've never heard of. It's NAIA with a huge chip on my shoulder. I get there, there's, I don't know, probably 12, 15 wide receivers. In my class alone, there were All-State Kansas, All-State Missouri, All-State Oklahoma. I was all conference, that's it, not all district. So, I kind of got this chip on my shoulder I really, really want to get off. And I think that's seeing the depth chart, they had X, H, Y, Z. And at H, I was like number 12. I was all the way at the bottom. And I knew that there was going to be guys at X that they'd put me in front. There's going to be guys at Y that they'd put in front of me. And I was like, I'm just going to go out there at this first practice and I'm going to go hard. That's all I really knew how to do my whole life is I'm going to go as hard as I can. So I go out there, first practice, I throw up. They're like, I got some attention. Second practice, we go out there, I throw up. Going too hard again. Coach Ross pulls me aside and he's like, hey, look, you caught our eye. Let's maybe not practice so hard. And I'm like, well, that's all I know. Third practice, we go out there, we get shells on. Not supposed to be hitting, but there's a fifth-year senior at safety who saw this true freshman practicing a little too hard. I ran a crossing route, wasn't looking, put his full body into me, get up, boom, throwing up again. But Coach Ross pulls me aside and he's like, hey, I really need you to calm down. We're going to pull your red shirt and you're going to play as a true freshman. So I went from being like 12th on the depth chart with all these older guys ahead of me, and I'm now the number 2 behind a guy who was previously at a D1 school. And then our Y, our X, our Z, H, all were Division I wide receivers. So here I am, a true freshman, from Winnetonka. I don't know what it's like to play at Oregon or Arizona like some of these guys had played at, but I'm playing and learning from them. And they did a great job teaching me. They used to tease me I'd never be fast because I wore a size 12 shoe. They said fast guys always have small feet. But I just took that freshman year. I took a beating verbally. If I was supposed to run a route at 15 yards and I ran it at 14 and a half, Coach Ross really would lay into me. The same guy, Rowe, he could go out and run a route at 12 yards, and Coach Ross would be like, I really like the way you rolled at the top of that 12 yards. And I'm like, I thought it was supposed to be 15, So
why were they giving you so much trouble, dude?
I think Coach Ross really believed in me, and that's just who he's known for. He's not known for being nice.
He's a tough love guy.
He's a tough love guy. He's going to give you just hell as long as he can. And then if you can take that when you start to get older, he's going to love you. And a lot of guys either hate him or love him because of that. And for me, I never had a father figure. I took it as like, all right, Dad, you tell me to go hard, I'll go hard. You tell me to run my route at 15, I'll figure out what I got to do better, So sophomore year, we come out, very first game of the year. We now have a transfer from the University of Oregon coming in, supposed to be like a third-round draft pick, phenomenal athlete, runs like a 4.21, Jameer Holland. He was at USC. Pete Carroll kicked him out. Oregon, Chip Kelly kicked him out. So now he's at Lindenwood. He's got all these draft scouts coming to watch him. We play a Thursday night game. It's my birthday. Coach Ross is like, hey, it's your birthday. I'm going to give you one play. Because basically the entire offense was designed for Jameer or our running back, Donatus. He's like, I give you one play. What do you want? I'm like, well, I want this bubble. And so we're on like the 10-yard line. I catch the bubble, take it 90 yards for a touchdown, just outrun everybody. I get to the sideline. Coach Ross is like, you know what? You might be a better football player than we thought. And backtrack to my freshman year, I ended up being the freshman of the year for our football team. Again, 50 guys. I'm freshman of the year, first one to get my red shirt pulled. In the spring, they tried to move me to defensive back, and I was like, I don't want to play DB. I know this is selfish. I know it sounds arrogant. I want to score touchdowns. This is what I'm here for. I love the crowd. I love hearing them go crazy. I want to score. So he, that practice that he was like, okay, we're going to give you one practice. We're going to line Damian up against you all practice long. He's like a 23-year-old safety, hits like a brick house. And he's like, you get one play against Damian. You got to make something happen or you're going right back to defensive back. And so Coach Ross had a rule. You always finish past the last defender. So if you catch a 5-yard out route and you turn up the sideline and you got a backside corner chasing you 40 yards downfield, you have to finish past that last defender. And that's our conditioning because we never, ever in 4 years conditioned there. And it was basically the intensity of the practice. So I get my route against Damian and I shake him at the line, boom, catch it. I probably caught it, 15 yards downfield. And there was definitely a safety in a corner on the backside that could have cut me off at 30. I went full speed down the sideline, 80 yards, touchdown. Jogged back, handed the ball to Coach Ross and said, you made a mistake. I'm not a DB. I'm a wide receiver. And I'm going to show you the rest of practice. Give me routes against Damian the whole time, and I'm going to show you what I can do. That whole practice, he gave me routes. I proved I was a good receiver. So we fast forward back to that sophomore year. He's like, you get one route. What do you want? I get the bubble for a touchdown. And he's like, you know what? We might have missed on you. Because originally the only reason why they gave me a scholarship was for my track times in high school. Coach Ross straight up told me my sophomore year, as I kept making more and more plays, he was like, we literally gave you a scholarship because of your track times. We thought you might be a good gunner. We thought you might be able to play some special teams, maybe catch a few passes here or there. We never thought you'd be what you are as a receiver. And I was like, well, I appreciate the honesty, Coach Ross. now that I'm actually making some plays. But, that's when things really started to click for me, that I'm lining up next to a guy who was at USC, and allegedly he was beating Reggie Bush in foot races. He was California state champ in the 100-meter dash, like a 10-1 100-meter guy. Chip Kelly kicked him out because they butted heads. Pete Carroll kicks him out. Gets up to Oregon. He's the fastest guy on Oregon, and this is back when Oregon is like known as the fastest team in the country, right? Mm-hmm. He's the fastest guy on the field, but he can't remember the playbook. And he did some stuff to get kicked out of Oregon. It's all online. So when he gets to Lindenwood, we don't know anything about this guy. And we called him Meerkat. And I'll never forget the very first day we're getting this transfer. I walk into the field house, and he's got like a big Gucci belt. And it's got words flashing across it, and it says Meerkat. And he should have been in class. And I'm like, Mir, aren't you supposed to be in class right now? He's like, I'm going to league. I don't need to go to class. So these are like my first impressions of this guy. I'm like, oh, man, this is going to be a bad teammate. He ended up being an amazing teammate for me the whole time. So he would start running routes to clear me open, basically, because he knew a lot of tension was going on him. So that sophomore year, I went from being a guy who maybe was going to get 2-3 passes a year. I was getting 7-8 catches a game, and things started really rolling for me. He had a lot of NFL scouts coming to watch him play at practice and in games. Well, during that time, by the end of the year, the offense was going through me, not through him. And we have our exit meetings, and I sit down with Coach Ross, not my receivers coach. And Coach Ross is like, hey, do you want to play in the NFL? And I'm like, dude, I made it to an NAIA school. I'm this short, skinny little white kid playing wide receiver, weighing 175 pounds. Of course I want to play in the NFL, but do you really think it's possible? And he's like, you caught the attention of NFL scouts. We want to see you put on some weight, come back in the spring a little heavier. Let's see you do well in the spring of your sophomore year at a bigger weight. Best friend Malik Radigan, I go to him. I'm like, hey, bro, I want to start lifting with you. And he lifted like a meathead 6 days a week. And he trained like a bodybuilder. I didn't know any different because I never lifted at high school. I never did school weights at Winnetonka. All I did was run hills and run track. So I go to Malik. Mondays are chest and back. Tuesdays, shoulders. Wednesdays, legs. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we repeat. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, split. 6 days a week. I come back to spring my sophomore year at like 210. I'm huge. I can run straight fast, but I can't move side to side, which is part of what made me special as a receiver. So I realized I kind of had to change my training.
Is that where the first time you started like actually dialing in and kind of informing, the way that you look at training now?
Yes, that was really because I had never lifted weights at Winnetonka. Like I'm talking, if we've got back squat, I'm finding a way out of it. If we've got bench press, I'm finding a way out of it.
A lot of people that are super talented that I've played with in my career are like that. You'd be like, oh, I bet that guy's a freak in the weight room. You're like, no, he's a freak on the field, so he's not a freak in the weight room.
Yeah, and that would have been the culture that was there at Winnetonka my first 3 years. Yeah. It was just show up to practice. That was the culture. We don't care if you do weights or conditioning or anything like that. And I did all the sprints, and I had no problem doing all that. But I didn't want to lift weights. Someone told me when I was in middle school, if you lift weights, you'll get slower.
Yeah.
So I avoided weights. So that's just kind of how I went into it. My freshman year at college, I did the weight program, didn't really attack it that much. I was just a sprint hills, run stadium stairs. That's how I'm going to get faster and be a better athlete. So I started lifting with Malik and Wes, and we're getting after it. I'm talking 3-hour lifts. The guy's giving us protein shakes after everything. He was a big supplement superstore guy too.
Let's go.
He was a
little shout out.
But
you got you up to 210.
Yeah, he got me up to 210. Mm-hmm. And I was a brick house. And I realized that after that spring, I needed to change the way I was training and still be big, but also get back my athleticism, right? So
what was it like though, transition wise? Like you get to this spot where you've had this chip on your shoulder almost your whole life at this point. You're getting You're getting underestimated everywhere you go, and so now you're getting featured. Mm-hmm. How'd that feel? Just going from that to that, were you comfortable with spotlight?
I ignored it. For me, it was nothing. I don't want to say it was nothing new because it obviously was new, but it wasn't something that bothered me because I've always had this mentality. I've always joked I don't really have emotions. It's just I'm happy. Like when my son does something well in sports, I'm happy. Or what the hell do I need to do to get better? If I can have this great, amazing football game, I'm not thinking about the 290 yards receiving I had and 5 touchdowns. I'm thinking about the one play I missed that could have been 300 yards, right? Like that's all I ever knew. So I think for me, you know, when all this attention started coming out to me, I wasn't paying attention to it because I was still focused on what could I do to get better, watching film, studying, listening to Coach Ross, listening to the older receivers still, because I'm still a young guy. The publicity really picked up after my junior year. So junior year, we transitioned to D2. We played D1 schools. We played D2 NAIA schools. And have a great junior year. And the whole offense ran through me and Donatus. We accounted, I think, for 90% of our yards and touchdowns, just two guys, right? So every team knew it's either going to be a route to me or it's going to be a run to Donatus. You just got to focus on these two guys. And him and I both still made all the plays we needed to make. Junior year ends, Coach Ross is like, all right, you officially have all the scouts' attention. You're big, you're fast, you can jump, you run great routes. You're going to have a junior day in the spring. You have to be ready to run fast. You're a short white guy. That's just the, I mean, let's just be real. So we get to the spring, and the Packers and Rams send out scouts to time me in a 40. We take the Wonderlick, we do a vertical, and as we're walking out to the field, the Packer scout looks at me and he's like, hey, I'm going to be honest with you. If you don't run 4.4 or below, we're not going to come watch you in the fall. You play D2 football, you're a short white guy. No, we're going to be honest with you. So my mom came down from Kansas City, and I had her stand in the end zone that I would be running towards. You know, my mom was a big inspiration my whole life. And so I was like, I'm going to run this 40. And as I run, I'm just going to stare at her the entire time. So the first 40 goes, and they time it 4.37. And I'm like, okay, I know I did it, but I think I can go faster than that. So I'm like, can I get one more 40? And they're like, yeah, 4.34. So after that junior day, that's when, I mean, I go down to Florida my senior year, train my senior year. Senior year comes in, and I blow away my junior year. Same thing. And we're playing in the MIAA now against all those schools that told me I wasn't good enough in high school. So you talk about chip on my shoulder. Tim Grover's got the book Relentless. That's like my
classic.
Bible. That's my Bible, right?
Yeah.
Like dark energy, find motivation. I start looking at every school, what we were going to play them, and I write down what that scout told me in high school when he was recruiting me. Too short, too stiff, can only run post routes. You know, I remember what every school says to me, and I'm like, I'm going to tear this league apart. I almost cussed. I don't know if that's allowed or not.
You can cuss here.
Oh man, I was like, I'm going to fucking tear this league apart. I'm going to make every single one of these coaches regret not recruiting me. And I'm going to show Coach Ross that he was right by giving me this opportunity. So we get into senior year in the MIAA, and basically every team knew it was going to be a handoff to Donatus or a throw to me. So you can go look at the box scores. It's not a lie. You know, week one, I think against Lincoln, I had 3 touchdowns, 250 yards, 7 catches, averaged over 20 yards a catch. Next week we go up. So teams are like, okay, we're going to start double teaming this guy. Well, that opens up the box for the Donatus. Donatus has a big game. We go in the next week. They load the box, freeze things back up for me. I go off. It's just like every week we would take turns, basically who was having the big game. And against Missouri Southern on national TV, they really stacked the box on Donatus. And there was a ton of NFL scouts at that game that we knew that because Missouri Southern had Brandon Williams, who was a nose tackle drafted by the Ravens. So he was a big-time NFL prospect. And then Donatus, my running back, was a prospect, and then I was a prospect. So we knew there was going to be a lot of NFL scouts there. Very first series, we see that they got like 8 guys in the box. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be my game. You know, and I end up going for 5 touchdowns, 287 yards. I returned a punt for a touchdown, and I knew in front of that many scouts that was my day.
That's crazy.
And, it was just like the senior year, it's like a dream come true, right? But I was never satisfied. I look back and there's times where I'm like, man, I probably should have been happy during some of these moments. But for me, it was always like, what's the next step? Mm-hmm. What's the next step? What's the next step? I can't ever be satisfied. I got to figure out what do I have to do next to get better, to keep improving, because my end goal is the NFL. You know, I got here at Lindenwood by happen's chance. 1 or 2 schools give me a scholarship. Didn't even have the grades to get into the other one. What do I have to do to get to the NFL? And that was my only thought process. So then after Lindenwood, my agent takes me out of school. I go down to Florida and I train they have regional combines and they've got super regional combines. So regional combines, I think 9 NFL teams host regional combines. You go down there and you do all the testing that you would do at the NFL combine. And it's for a lot of D1 guys who maybe backed up, maybe they backed up Arch Manning, right? But they never got any play time, but they're still the quarterback at Texas. So I fly down to Texas. I get in there, and my roommate is Adam Thielen.
That's cool.
So D2, white guy, right? So we go down. I'm like, hey, I'm Andrew. I'm Adam. Nice to meet you, man. We go down and take our Wonderlic test. Everyone there is like a D1 receiver. We're the only two white guys. And we're sitting next to each other, and we're like, we both, had chips on our shoulders a little bit here. And so we take the Wonderlic, we go back to our room, we get to talking, and he's an amazing guy. And he's just a very humble dude. I think it was Minnesota Mankato, great career. And so when the next day the combine happens, they split us up into two groups. So the first group goes, Adam's in that group, I'm in the second group. So I'm warming up as I'm watching Adam go through the drills. I think he's doing the gauntlet. I knew he had ran a great 40. And then after you do the combine at the super regional, the way they do it is they take the 20 guys and you go sit in the stands. And scouts will call out guys that they want to speak to afterwards, depending on how good you do. And so as I'm warming up, I'm watching Adam go talk to that team. He comes back. Adam goes, talks to that team. Scouts aren't pulling other receivers over. They're just pulling Adam over. And I'm like, damn, good for him, right? So I go out there and I do really well. Same thing. I test really well. I run sub 4.4, which was the big thing. I don't remember what the vertical was broad, but I did good. Okay. Didn't drop anything in the gauntlet. We sit down. I think just about every single team pulled me over and talked to me. And it was just like that, I think, was like my first real moment of, I've had teams coming to watch me practice. In the fall, I had teams coming to Lindenwood, taking me to lunch, interviewing me, asking me questions. But now I'm actually performing next to guys from USC, Texas, Florida. I'm outperforming them, and scouts want to talk to me and get to know me more. And so I think that was kind of like my first real eye-opening of this might actually really happen.
Yeah, you're starting like, man, people finally are seeing how good, like I can actually recognize, I'm as good as I think I am.
Yeah. And a lot of coaches I always played for always believed that in me. And I think I always believe that in myself as well. Like I'll do whatever it takes. But whenever it came time to give a college scholarship, or whenever it came time to, put a guy in a certain spot on the depth chart at practice, I was always the one at the bottom. And I kept stacking those chips on my shoulders, and I kept taking it, and it's just like relentless, it was just pissing me off, making me angry, making me work harder. And so the draft process happens, and I go into it with a 6th, 7th round draft grade. Draft didn't go as we thought we wanted to. I have 10 teams invite me to rookie camp. The NFL does it where they hold 2 rookie camps. So half the team does it 1 week, half the teams do it the other week. I choose the Atlanta Falcons first because the Falcon scout during the entire process was the one coming in the fall the most talking to me. And I knew that this guy liked me. So if a scout really likes you, he's going to fight hard for you in the room to make the team, right? And so he was trying to make his way up on the scouting department. And so I chose Atlanta. They had drafted Marcus Trufant out of Washington. And so I knew I could have a good opportunity if I go out and I run routes against Trufant, that I could showcase what I could do. And the way their offense was built, literally the entire offense was for Julio Jones. And then Roddy White was on the outside.
As it should be.
Yeah. Literally the plays would be like Julio Wright.
I mean, you had Roddy White, Julio Jones,
Tony
you had
G.
Tony Gonzalez. Who was the running back? Work done?
I don't remember
at the time.
No, I don't think
but it was a
Work
quarter.
done.
But you got Matt Ryan throwing the ball. So
yeah, and so
just ungodly talent.
Harry Douglas was a slot receiver. Dude's like 6'3", 6'4", doesn't move very well. They were looking for what the build I felt, right? So I'm like, I just got to go up there. If I do my job, I got a scout that loves me. I can make this team. I go up there. I just all camp long, Marcus Trufant made him a bitch. It didn't matter what route it was. If I was blocking, I won every single time. So rookie camp ends. Arthur Blank, the guy who owns the team, pulls me and a D end, I think from Texas, into his office. Says, hey, look, guys, we got 90 guys on the roster. We're full. We're going to cut 2 guys and sign you guys. And I'm like, oh my God, I did it. I'm finally here. Fly back from Atlanta. Next week, I go up to the Cleveland Browns camp. I thought that was a good chance for me to make the team. We get up there to Cleveland, same thing, all camp long. I'm dominating. So this kind of goes back to like, I'm always doing well, but somehow there's sometimes where it's like people aren't believing in me, right? Like I'm doing what I need to do. Every camp rookie camp was 3 days. They highlighted the 5 takeaways every day from rookie camp. I was the first highlight all 3 days. Day one of rookie camp, highlight. Undrafted free agent Andrew Helmick here on a rookie camp invite. He's beating everybody in practice. He's unguardable. He's catching kicks and punts, making people miss everywhere he goes. You know, their first round draft pick was, I think, Mingo from out of LSU. The takeaway on him was he was skinny and lackadaisical, right? But,
and he had the greatest first name of all time.
Yeah.
Barkevius.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his first name. I was like, I know I'm going to mispronounce that
guy's name was Barkevius Mingo.
So, again, I'm doing this thing at Brown's rookie camp, and I'm crushing it. And after Brown's rookie camp, I get pulled in the office, and I'm the only guy with the owner and the GM. And they're like, hey, same thing. We're full. We got 90 guys. We got to release them. We're going to release someone, and you're going to come sign here. Fly back to St. Louis, and I'm jobless. At this point, I'm just hoping someone calls me and gives me that contract that they told me they would. And then I get a phone call from St. Louis area code. It's like, hey, it's Jeff Fisher. What are you doing? Like, well, I'm in my wife's room right now. Or at the time, my girlfriend's, I'm sitting in her house, which probably not supposed to be. Sorry, Linwood. And I'm like, I'm jobless. And he's like, why don't you come run some routes right now for us? So I drive 5 minutes right up to Rams Park. Okay. They had me warm up with Rock, the strength coach. That's the best name you could have as a strength coach, Coach Rock. And he was a man. I think he's now the strength coach for Texas. But he warms me up. We're bonding well. And Sam Bradford comes out, and I'm like, oh, my God, this is Sam Bradford. This is the first overall pick. It's a big name for me. I'm used to D2 guys or guys that I was running routes.
Guy won the Heisman.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is this is not my normal run-of-mill run routes, okay? There's 40, 50 scouts, player personnel guys watching just me, how I warmed up, how I ran my routes. They had me run 2 or 3 routes from the slot, had me run 2 or 3 routes from the outside, and before I did that, they had me do a drill where basically I would stand still and Sam would walk around me and throw me odd balls, and I'd have to catch balls in basically different positions. I went and ran my routes. My last route was a post route from the slot. I ran it, boom, Sam, he had a cannon, bombed it, 70 yards downfield. As I'm jogging back thinking there's a lot more to this workout because we've only been here for 20, 30 minutes, I look over and I see Jeff Fisher. And all I see is this. I'll never forget Jeff Fisher doing this. Everyone exits the room. And I'm like, oh, my God, I must have sucked. Like, that didn't take long for them to figure out I'm not the guy that they wanted to sign. So everyone leaves. Some probably intern walks me into the players' lounge, sitting in the players' lounge for like 2 hours. Chris Long walks in, sits down, starts talking with me. That was my first interaction with Chris Long.
Number 2 overall pick from Virginia for all of our listeners.
Yeah, and he treats every person.
Big deal.
Treats every person like a human. And I'm playing with this guy on Madden, right? So I'm like, dude, this guy's amazing. So after like 2 hours, they finally send someone down and pull me up to Les Snead's office. We're talking for like 45 minutes. And he's like, yeah, we're just kind of waiting on your agent to fax back over your contract. What's it like to know that you're going to be a St. Louis Ram? And I was like, you guys are signing me? Like, what? No one's told me? And he's like, no one's told you? I said, no, I've been sitting down there for like 2 hours just thinking you guys are about to give me a plane ticket back somewhere else. He's like, no, you're a St. Louis Ram, man. You did what you needed to do in only 30 minutes. I'm like,
whatever happened to the Falcons?
Yeah, why didn't the Falcons or the Browns ever give you a call?
So I don't know if the Browns ever did. The Falcons, like 24, 48 hours, called my agent before the waiver wire was official that I had signed with the Rams. They did call my agent, and they were going to offer me my contract. So in hindsight, I would not have signed the Rams contract because they had just drafted Tavon Austin.
Yeah, they had a deeper, amount of slots.
They had 5 drafted wide receivers in 3 years, and they had just drafted Tavon Austin, the greatest YouTube mixtape highlight tape ever. Right.
Yeah. The mixtape of internet legend is Tavon Austin's. Yeah. I don't know why that is, but it is the most famous mixtape in the history of highlights.
It's amazing.
Did you know that?
No.
It's like internet famous right now.
Yeah.
As in like right now it's trending. People being like, when I tell my girl, like I love her, but in reality I'm thinking about the mixtape. Like it's like I promise it's like there's like a million videos of people that are just like, people don't understand. And it's just like, this Tavon mixtape.
It was incredible. And I had spent all winter and spring watching that mixtape.
Throw it on, dude.
Not thinking I would ever be signing a contract with the Rams. Because during the draft process.
Line it up right next to him, yeah.
Yeah. All draft process, I had never spoke to the Rams, which is the craziest part of it.
This is it, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is the one.
This is what I spent all winter and spring watching as I trained for the NFL Combine.
Yeah, dude. He was 5'8" too.
Yeah.
Shout out to the short guys.
And he loved to lift. So that was actually my rack partner. This is who I lifted with when I was with the Rams. So he might be tiny, but dude was strong. And he loved to lift too. Not every guy in the NFL likes to lift. Tay did like to lift. He loved benching. He loved cleaning. We didn't do a lot of back squat. Shout out high school football coaches. We didn't do a lot of back squat. But Tay did love to get after it. And I'll never forget the very first practice. So that day I signed my contract to get all my gear. I go into the indoor facility, and I line up behind Tay to run a route, and we're working on digs, and we're going against the defensive backs. And you'll see it in some of these highlights. Tay can flip his hips one way but run the other way. And I'm talking like 1% of people can do what he can do. And then you sprinkle on the fact he does it at like 4.2 speed is incredible. So he runs a dig route against Cortland Finnegan and turns Cortland Finnegan, an all-pro nickel corner, completely around. And I'm standing behind Tay because I'm next, and I'm watching as a fan, not as an athlete. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I got to snap back in. I just kind of blew 30 seconds watching this guy as I'm here as a fan, not as an athlete right next to him, you know? And so that's kind of how the first couple weeks went for me in OTAs, where I was watching Tavon Austin, Stedman Bailey, Jared Cook, Chris Givens, Brian Quick, you know, Zach Stacy. I watched these guys in college football on Saturdays when I wasn't playing. No one's tuning into the MIAA to watch a game, right? We're watching the SEC, Big 12, and I've got to realize I belong with these guys now too. So that was kind of the first time where, like, my whole life I've got this chip on my shoulder. I'm going to do what I can do to make it. I get there, and now I'm next to these guys that I'm playing college football with Tavon, trying to make plays, and now he's supposed to be my teammate. It took a couple weeks for me to kind of snap out of it, like, hey.
Shake off the imposter syndrome, if you will.
Yeah, like, hey, you belong here too, dude. Like, you're here for a reason. And so that was kind of where, you know, I think it was probably the third week of practice where Kellen Clemens he was our third string quarterback, second string, depending on the week. He kind of fell in love with me, and he's just that old school vet. He's got a dip in at practice. He's been in the league forever, played at Oregon. He started teaching me the audibles that only the vets were supposed to know, so that if they cut a guy like me, I can't go and tell someone else that I signed with, this is what the hot read is, right? So if we see a fire blitz, he would give me the audible so that I could run the route to the right spot and not just run the route that was written on paper. So he started helping me make plays as if I was a part of the team. And next thing I know, I'm making plays against the third, second string guys. So I move up a little bit on the depth chart, right? So if we got 10 plays in second long situation, you know, I get one. Then after a couple weeks, I'm getting 2 or 3 plays. By the end of the OTAs, I'm splitting basically because they didn't know what they wanted to do with me, put me in the slot or put me on the outside. So I'm splitting some routes with Tay in the slot. And I'm splitting some routes with Stedman and Chris Givens at the X and Z. And I'm running second team routes against some of the second team corners. And that we had drafted a USC safety. His dad played in the NFL. Draft savant. Help me out here.
Who? Oh, sorry. Safety from the
safety
USC?
from USC.
Now I'm thinking.
I think he was their second round draft pick.
He was. I'm just thinking of Juan Thornhill because he was a second round draft pick for the Chiefs. Now I can't think of who that was. But yeah, he was good.
Okay, yeah. So here we go. So they have
TJ McDonald.
TJ McDonald. There we go. So we've got Tavon Austin, 8th overall pick. They gave him lots of money, so it's going to be really hard for me to make the team because he has a lot of money, right? So if they keep him and they got to pay me. Got Alec Ogletree, was supposed to be a top 5 pick, got a DUI in the draft. Actually, a really phenomenal human being. Alec Ogletree ended up being a starter for us on the defense. That was one of the best defenses in the league. TJ McDonald, safety, USC. They drafted Stead, Tavon Austin, his teammate in college. Barrett Jones, the smartest human I have ever met in my entire life, and incredibly socially awkward. But that was the Remington Award winner, Alabama, as the center. I think for probably 3 years in a row. Nick Saban said it was one of the smartest guys he'd ever met. Brandon McGee, DB out of Miami, and then Zach Stacy out of Vanderbilt, who I think led the SEC in rushing that year. So
he had a great rookie year too.
Yeah.
And they drafted Todd Gurley the next year. And Zach Stacy tweeted a "woo" face and was released the next day.
Yeah. He tweeted
darn.
Ooh. For guys who played on that Rams team, there's some guys we don't mention. Zach Stacy's one of those because he's kind of went downhill a little bit.
He's super sad.
Had
Yeah,
some CTE issues, but
I think he's spent some time in prison.
Yeah, so we So I'm playing with these guys, and I start getting reps more and more with guys that I probably shouldn't have been getting reps with, right? Like I'm making a name for myself in practice. And I think it was probably like week 5 or 6 that Brian Schottenheimer, who's the new head coach at the Dallas Cowboys, he was our offense coordinator. He's like, all right, we're going to put you at the ones. You're in with Sam. You're in with Jared Cook. This is your shot. It's 3rd and long situation. So the DBs know they just don't get beat deep. That's the only thing you have to worry about. And they give me a post route. And he tells Sam, you're throwing and answer the ball no matter what. So I got Janoris Jenkins, an all-pro corner from Florida, all SEC, lined up against me. Run him, stem him, flip his hips to the sideline, go back to the post, touchdown, boom, burn him. Just like I did at Lindenwood, Coach Ross. I ran all the way to the end zone, even though I didn't have to. As I'm jogging back, Janoris is, can't understand a thing he's saying. Jeff Fisher looks at Janoris and he's like, that's a fast white boy, ain't it? Hell yeah, that's a fast white boy. After that play, the rest of OTAs, I was with the 1s and 2s a lot. And that's when like Jared Cook was like, I want you to be my slot guy too. Like, I want you in here. You're going to practice hard. You're going to help me get open. So Jared Cook starts taking me under his wing. Chris Givens, who had no reason to take me under his wing because he's a receiver too. I could be taking his spot. Givey takes me under his wing. Chris Long ends up being a huge influence with me. Did we already talk about, I know we talked about it in there. Did we talk about what Chris Long did to me like one of the very first few weeks I was there?
No, you haven't talked about that yet.
So first couple of weeks, Chris Long, we're in the locker room and it's empty. And this is still kind of where I have that imposter syndrome, right? And Chris Long sits down next to me, completely empty locker room. And he's like, Andrew, you're going to make this team. And I'm like, oh my God, this is Chris Long. Like, he has no reason to say this to me, right? So I'm like, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And he's like, you remind me a lot of my best friend, Danny Amendola. I was like, oh, that's awesome. He's like, you're the great white hope. Well, at the time, I didn't know there was a boxing movie about a white boxer who, fights a lot of black guys. And I thought he called me the Great White Hoe because I was unfamiliar with the movie. So I was like, did you just call me the Great White Hoe? And he's like, no, you're the Great White Hope. And he tells me the story. And basically, the rest of the time in the locker room for the next hour, he's like sitting there motivating me, like, you're going to make this team. And I think that kind of helped flip me from that imposter syndrome to I can do this. I'm here for a reason. And then after I got that route against Janoris Jenkins, the rest was history. I was taking a lot of reps with the 1s, basically took almost all of Stedman Bailey's reps. So he didn't like me for very much. I was going 50-50 with Tavon. And by the time we got to training camp, that's kind of where I was, if we had 5 plays of red zone, I got 3, Tay got 2. And I was getting a lot of first team reps. And that it was no longer, are you going to make the team as an undrafted guy? The goal now was like, okay, no, you're not just going to be, at that time I was a starting punt returner, kick returner, and gunner. The goal was no longer, are you going to make the team as an undrafted guy playing special teams? I'm going to play wide receiver. And my goal is I'm going to start. I'm going to take Chris Givens' spot. I'm going to take Austin Pettis' spot. I'm going to take Tay's spot if I have to. But I'm going to make this team. And then that's when the unfortunate happens. So we go through training camp, and there's still photos online. If you can Google some of these photos, I'm making one-handed catches for touchdowns in open practices in front of 10,000 people. ESPN falls in love with me. I end up being the spotlight of the entire training camp, which obviously Tavon didn't like very much. But it was one of those things where I became.
Yeah, I remember reading all of these, by the way.
I became this crowd favorite because what the reporters were doing was they were taking me as I was St. Louis's own. And so, not to offend Supplement Superstore and St. Louis people, I hated St. Louis. I couldn't wait to get back home to Kansas City. But they were like so that was a one-handed catch in a huge open practice. So the guy right there, that's Robert Steeples, played at Mizzou, went to Memphis. One of my best friends in the locker room, love the guy. We're still close to this day. And that was against the first team defense. Steeples was, I can't remember what he was at Memphis, but he ended up becoming the head coach at DeSmet.
Oh, okay, cool.
National High School Coach of the Year, coached the Army football game, did amazing. But once training camp hit, it was mine to lose. I was making every play possible. So that was after I scored a touchdown in against the Packers in the preseason.
You and Pettis.
No, that is so So he was on the practice squad the previous 2 years.
Was Pettis like 18?
I think Pettis was 18. Yeah.
Yeah. So
no offense, Austin. Pettis was a dickhead. He
yeah.
was one of the guys that didn't like me in the receiver room. But like all the other guys kind of took me under their wing.
Yeah. Man.
Brian Quick wasn't that smart, but
people that work hard, a lot of people that don't want to have to work as hard don't like that.
Yeah. So, I'm getting a ton of first team reps now, and we play the Cleveland Browns on Saturday, and it's Thursday. This is our last hard practice of the week, because Friday's going to be travel. So we're working on 2-minute drill, and Sam Bradford, it's Jared Cook, me, Givey's lined up on the outside. Sam Bradford gives us an audible. Okay. I was supposed to run a post, and then Givey was going to run something underneath me. Well, he audibled me to a quick out. So catch the ball, get out of bounds as fast as you can, stop the clock in the 2-minute drill. So he throws a ball. I got to reach for it. Reached all the way out. I catch it. My leg's fully extended. Quentin Pointer, the safety, pushes me in the back, just doing what he was supposed to do. Leg goes into the turf. Heel hits the turf. My momentum didn't stop. Boom. Fall to the ground. I'd never had been hurt in my entire life. I'd never broken a bone. I'd never had an injury. I'd never missed a game. And I'd played a million sports growing up my entire life. My very first injury, and I'm literally on the way to the hospital to get an MRI, and I know that I'm like, that's it. I'm done now. And that's when I ended up with a grade 2 hamstring strain. And they were going to release me and basically tell me, hey, thanks for coming. Here's your last 3 weeks of pay. It was supposed to be like a 6-week recovery, so we're going to pay you for your first 2 weeks of game. So the way the NFL works, my rookie year deal was $475,000, $450,000. Divide that by 16, 17-week, 1 bye week. That's your weekly paychecks. So I was going to get 2 weeks of the big paychecks. And I sat down. Les Need, the general manager, his wife was at every practice. She fell in love with me. So I requested a meeting with Les Need, his wife, Jeff Fisher, the head athletic trainer, Coach Rock, the strength coach, and basically like an insurance guy. And I signed a piece of paper saying that I was aware that I was injured and that I wouldn't sue them if they released me, because you can't release an injured person and not pay them. It's like a workers' comp thing, right? So I signed a paper saying, I acknowledge I'm injured. I'm going to be probably released. Just let me play. I've waited my whole entire life to get to this moment. I do not want to miss playing in an NFL game. I don't want to just go through practices. So they luckily they blessed me with that opportunity. I got to play against the Packers. Man, there were so many people there, with 84 jerseys. I had no clue who they were. St. Louis thought I was their own. There's so many articles out there I was telling you guys about, like they compared me to, Eckstein and Danny Amendola and Hart, and they basically picked all these scrappy white guys and bundled them up and said that's who I was. And St. Louis actually adopted me as their own, which was really cool. But at the game, there's 84 jerseys, signs everywhere from people coming to all these open practices, and I'm going out and we're playing the Packers. I'm not going to get into the third quarter now. When I tore my hamstring, that was 24 hours before the Browns. I was going to be getting in the first, second, and third quarter. I was going to be taking first team reps. Obviously, the injury happens. Don't. So next week against the Packers, I know I'm probably going to get in probably third, fourth quarter, maybe the second quarter, right? So here I am, helmet on, warming up. It's an NFL game. Juices are flowing, adrenaline's going. I'm used to being the focal point in the offense, right? We're in the tunnel, and St. Louis had a really cool way for guys to run out in the dome, smoke, loud, fire. It was intense. And I remember standing there before we ran out, and I felt like I was getting ready to play in 5 minutes. And Chris Long, here he is again. He comes down, he puts his arm around my shoulder, and he's like, hey, calm down. You're not playing for an hour and a half probably, buddy. Let your adrenaline calm down. You're not getting in for a while. Don't blow your energy just to stand on the sideline. So I get in and against the Packers, and they had drafted a safety, I think, in the second or third round, and he's still in there in the third quarter. And Kellen Clemens, we're running a 2-minute drill, and because he had taught me a lot of the audibles I wasn't supposed to know, we lined up, and I could see a linebacker creeping up on the line of scrimmage, and I knew he was blitzing, which meant that they were hiding a man coverage with that safety. So I look at Kellen, and he gives me an audible to run a corner route, and I was supposed to just run like an in route basically. And I run this corner route, boom, touchdown, ends up getting called back because of a holding. But my very first play, I ran over out shallow at like 5 yards. Dumps it off to me. I make like 6 guys miss, got like 50 yards for that catch. I don't remember what the stat line of the game was, but I had a great game on a grade 2 hamstring strain. So we go next week, we fly out to Denver against the Broncos. Okay, we're not going to play you a lot at receiver. And I later would figure out why they're doing this. They're like, we're not going to play you a lot at wide receiver, but we're going to still let you start a gunner on punt team. I was like, okay. And so Denver Broncos had an all-pro, like 2-3-time all-pro, Trenton Holiday, who's their punt returner. And so Coach Bones, who I think is still the special teams coordinator for the Cowboys, one of the best special teams coordinators in the NFL. Coach Bones had a rule. When you're going against the vice, is this being recorded so people can see this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So when you're going against the vice and you're lined up, don't go up the middle. You have to either go straight to the sideline because they can't touch you for 10 yards. So get to the sideline and then try and get back in. Beat him inside, like beat the inside guy, but that's really tough. But never try and split the vice because you're just going to get mauled.
Mm-hmm.
I lined up. I was like, fuck it, I'm going up the middle. And so I take 2 hard steps out, like I'm going to the sideline. I put my hand on the guy because he can ride you to the sideline, but then he can't touch you for 10 yards. I throw him. Next guy comes in, boom, club by him, full speed down the field. And I'm like, I'm just going to fucking kill Trenton Holiday. That's all I can think about. Catches the ball, forced the fumble. You know, I forced an all-pro returner, forced him to fumble the ball. I think ESPN ruled it as a muff. My wife still has a video of it it was a CBS game on national TV. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm still doing this on a grade 2 hamstring, right? Like I can do this. Don't get in the rest of the game. And I'm just steaming on the sidelines, like, what is going on? So we fly back from Denver. It's super late. Coach Fisher's like, hey guys, we're going to give you guys the day off. You don't have to come back in until like 6 p.m. tonight. We're just going to watch film on the game. Well, I'm a grinder, right? That's all I ever do. So we get back at like on 3 a.m., set my alarm 5, 6 a.m., get straight into the facility, start doing my rehab, cold tub, hot tub, cold tub, hot tub, cold tub, hot tub. Find my trainers that worked with me. Started getting all the stuff I could on my hamstring, doing all the mobility stuff I could do. Met Rock in the weight room, going through all the stuff I can do. No one's even close to being in the facility, right? I'm just grinding out my rehab. And I get in there, take a shower. I'm sitting in my locker. And Coach Rock sits down next to me. And me and Coach Rock had a great relationship because he knew I loved to lift and he knew I was a worker. And he knew I'm just here to grind and do what I can. Strength coaches love that stuff, right? So he sits down next to me and I just get this pit in my stomach. And I kind of already had a feeling coming back from Denver after only getting one punt, one play on punt team. This was coming. Sits down. He's like, it's Rock. His name's Rock. He's got a deep voice. Manager, this is the least favorite part of my job. Like this is where I go turn in my iPad. And he's like, yeah, Coach Fisher's waiting for you upstairs. And I'm like, damn it. So I start packing my stuff and, I'm playing on, I knew it was coming. I'd signed the waiver knowing that I was probably going to be released. I go up there. Coach Fisher at the time is one of the only coaches in the NFL who will sit down with the players he's cutting. And we talk for like 2-3 hours. And man, he's just as good as a human. He's the best 8-8, 7-9, 9-7 coach in the history of the NFL. And, he's telling me everything. He's like, when we signed you as camp legs. We never envisioned you'd make this team. Halfway through OTAs, you started kind of being a buzz in the coaching room. By the time training camp was going, we thought, how in the hell are we going to tell people we just gave $20 million to Tavon Austin. We just gave $500,000 to Stedman Bailey, Chris Givens, Brian Quick, Austin Pettis. All these guys are getting all this money. How are we going to tell people this undrafted free agent is going to get all the plays? Because NFL teams don't want to be wrong. So if they invest a lot of money in a player and someone else comes along and makes plays, they look stupid for drafting a guy and giving him lots of money. So Coach Fisher was like, you can't just outperform a guy. You have to literally do everything better than him and then some. And we look at you like a stock, the return on stock. What are we getting on this stock that we invested? We invested $20 million in this stock, and we're getting some good investment out of it. Obviously, Tavon's career didn't turn out to be what it was in college. In practice, he was an absolute menace. No one could guard him. I'll never understand why his NFL career did not turn out the way it did. But in practice, I mean, he turned people left and right and made every kind of play possible. In games, this never happened, right? But, you know, it was one of those things where, you know, you have to outperform them so much as an undrafted guy because they have all this money. And when you tear your hamstring, your stock value drops. And I was like, okay, well, can you be honest? Like, you let me play against the Packers and I have a great game. You let me have one play against the Broncos. Why? And he was like, well, when you made that play against Trenton Holiday, we started thinking, this guy's doing all this crap on a hamstring strain. We're going to hide him. So we're releasing you today and not letting you play against the Ravens in game 4 because we don't want you to keep making plays and other NFL teams see what you're doing on this hamstring strain. So we're trying to hide you essentially so that basically in, let's say 4 weeks, my hamstring's good. They can release a guy, bring me back on practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of their way of hiding me. So he was very honest with me and he was an amazing guy. You know, in the NFL locker rooms, they've got more supplements and goodies than you could imagine. I remember calling my girlfriend because I didn't have my car because, you know, they shuttled rookies back and forth to the hotel because Coach Fisher makes you stay in a hotel. And, you know, I called my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, babe, yep, it happened. Can you come pick me up? No one's here. Come pick me up before people start showing up. I feel embarrassed for no reason, but I'm embarrassed, right? I know there's 20 other guys getting cut today, but let's just go. Come get me. I grab my bag and I'm shoveling all my favorite stuff in there. Got all my stuff, all the stuff she enjoyed. And it was kind of like one of those moments where I walked out of that building and it was like, this was my dream my entire life. And it's not what I thought it was. You know, I was this close to making it happen. And had I not torn my hamstring, maybe I don't have that same viewpoint. But when I got there and I saw the politics of how things worked, it just kind of made me sick. But then you meet guys like Chris Long and Chris Givens and Jared Cook, and you meet Kellen Clemens, who played in the NFL for I don't know how long. You meet guys who treat you like a human. Sam Bradford said 0 words to me. 10 weeks OTAs, 1 month break between training camp. Sam Bradford said 0 words to me the entire time. And I kind of think back to like, why did
you would think all the injuries would have humbled him a little bit, you know?
Well, you would think as the quarterback, you're the leader of the team.
Yeah.
That's why his career never really panned out either.
And that's kind of why I've always said, like, yeah, he could throw the ball in practice 70 yards, but in meetings, he would not speak.
He's just not a strong leader.
Yeah, and it never happened. Kellen Clemens would do all the talking, and he was like the guy, you know, people rallied behind, and he was a good leader, and he just didn't have the arm talent maybe Sam did, or the way to read a defense that Sam could. But you know that ended that, and you know, Tony Softly, the ESPN reporter, he calls me. He'd been in NFL front offices forever. He calls me and he's like, "Dude, don't give up. I'm going to call teams. You're getting back in the NFL. Step 1." Go to the Arena Football League. If you go to the CFL, you're going to make a lot of money. But if you go up there, they treat their league like the NFL. They're going to assign you to $80,000, $120,000, but they're not going to let you leave for 3-4 years because you're going to be a star up there. And if you go up there, they don't want to give you back to the NFL. So I'd be coming back at like 26, 27. So he's like, go to the Arena Football League. So my agent, we end up signing with the Tampa Bay Storm. So I drove down there early. I spent the night with my girlfriend on New Year's in St. Louis, hopped in my car, drove down to Tampa 2 months early to start getting ready for the Arena Football League because this was a different type of ball game. We get down there. Derek Brooks, Buccaneers Hall of Famer, that's our GM. Our head coach was like the 8-time Arena Football Player of the Year. We're 5-0, but it's a toxic locker room. All the guys wanted to do, we practiced from like basically 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., and then we had the rest of the day off. All guys wanted to do was party, smoke weed, strip club. That's all they wanted to do. And that's not how I'd ever spent my life, right? Like it's always grind, do what I got to do to get to the next step, which probably rest would have been good, right? But that's not just who I was. And it just felt like a toxic environment for me as a person. So I go to I go to Mr. Brooks and I'm like, you know, we got the number 1 offense in the NFL or the AFL. I'm like, I'd like to be released. He's like, really? You're kind of like a focal point in our offense because in the AFL they have the high motion guy who gets a free sprint, you know, before the play. You give a guy who runs a 4.34 full head of steam. I mean, I'm running by guys, right? And so I'm like, yeah, coach, this isn't my environment. I'm a hard worker. these guys here, they're partying, they're fun guys, but it's just not what is going to get me back to the NFL.
Yeah, it wasn't very professional.
Yeah. And so I get released, and I'm driving my car back to Kansas City because I got my Charger down there in Tampa. I'm driving back, and I get a phone call from an Arizona area code, and it's the head coach for the Arizona Rattlers. And he's like, Andrew, what are you doing? This is Coach Guy. And this is the team who has won like back-to-back arena football championships. They're the Patriots of the AFL. Their quarterback wins the MVP every year. They're the best at what they do. He's like, this is Coach Guy with the Rattlers. What are you doing? I was like, well, I'm in Atlanta right now. He's like, wait 1 second. So he looks it up, and there's an overnight flight from Atlanta to Phoenix. And he's like, would you take our contract right now? And normally you got to go work out for teams. They'll fly in 5-10 guys, work out, pick one maybe. I'm like, do I have to work out? And he's like, no, we're giving you the contract right now over the phone if you want it. So I take it. Cool, sweet. So fly out to Arizona, play for the Rattlers, completely different experience. All the guys in the locker room have been guys that had played in the NFL for a long time. They're all 30-plus, kids, families, all hard workers. You realize why the culture is different there, right? And it was just a great experience. We ended up being the arena football champions. And as the season is ending, I've only been in college for 3.5 years when I dropped out. Yeah, so we won. I think that was before the championship. So that was the National Conference champion. I think we beat the San Jose SaberCats in that game. And then I think, yeah, right there. So the middle one right there. Yeah, that was the arena championship game. After the game, we all went out and took photos with that. And I think that was their like third straight Arena Bowl championship. Mm-hmm. And so the Arena League was really cool. Obviously, it's fallen apart now. And the reason why it fell apart was because there was like 2 or 3 teams that basically won every single time. And it was Arizona Rattlers or the Jose SaberCats and San Jose SaberCats. And when the AFL was going bankrupt, they basically eliminated free agency because with the Storm, they put 22,000 people in the stands. The Rattlers, we used the same stadium as the Phoenix Suns and Mercury. They put 20,000 people in the stands. Iowa Barnstormers, they got like 500 people in there. So it's really hard to competitively pay the best players to come pay up there when people aren't selling out stands, right? So they put out a league mandated, like basically pay. If you're a rookie, you're going to make $1,000 a week. It's a 20-week season, 2 bye weeks, so you're going to make $18,000. Second year guys, you get $1,200. Year 3 guys, you get like $1,500. Well, there was a couple teams that kind of paid under the table a little bit. And I had heard rumors about the Rattlers being kind of like one of those teams. So, I'm flying out there, and I'm excited to go play for one of the best teams and hopefully continue to show my hamstrings good because my end goal is to get back to the NFL. That's the only reason why I'm in the AFL is to get back to the NFL. And I get out there, and my roommate, AK, played at Texas A&M. He's like, hey, you had a great first game. Here's the deal. You're going to go walk 2 blocks down. You're going to take a right. There's going to be this mail room. You're going to go in there, tell him what number you are. He's going to give you a key to a locker. You're going to go open that locker, and there's cash. And so they were paying guys under the table, which is how they were always winning and why all the best players wanted to play for them. And if you had a really good game, you'd go open up your locker, and there'd be some extra cash under the table, right? And some billionaire, software guy owned the team and basically owned the entire like Phoenix Bar district. He took care of guys. And that's why like our starting quarterback who was supposed to be making like $1,500 a week had like a $500,000 house because he was the league MVP. But it was a great experience. But as the season was ending, my girlfriend, now wife, was like, hey, no one's graduated college. You're a semester and a half away from your degree. I want you to go home. I want you to go back to Lindenwood and finish your degree. And this is where my whole life changes, right? I still only got one end goal in mind. Let's get back to the NFL. So I go back to Lindenwood, and I'm going to just finish my degree. I think I could have knocked it out in the fall. And I get a job for a guy in St. Louis. It's a gym called Blue Ocean Fitness. So Supplement Superstore people, check out Blue Ocean Fitness. Guy's amazing, John Farkas. One of his first employees was a girl I knew that played volleyball at Lindenwood. She's like, hey, what are you doing while you're back at Lindenwood? I was like, I'm nothing. I need work. She's like, well, my boss is expanding his business. Why don't you come work for him? And I was like, okay. So I go out there for an interview with one person. It was whatever. Go out there for the second interview with Mr. Farkas. And I have 0 training experience. whatsoever. I love working out, becomes a part of my life. And he's like, hey, I'm gonna give you this job, but you have one test. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., I have about 30 housewives that are gonna work out, and you're gonna come lead this workout, and I'm gonna let you put it together. But you have to do one thing for me. I was like, what? He's like, you got to wear tight khakis. And I was like, okay, well, all right. Well, this is part of the job interview, whatever. So go out there, lead the interview. I probably put together the worst absolute workout possible because I'd never trained, a bunch of housewives, but they all loved me.
Because of those tight khakis.
It was the tight khakis, and it was the personality, right? Like I love people. I genuinely love people, and I knew nothing about training. And so he gave me the job, and he told me, you know nothing about training. You think you know everything because you're a great athlete and you've been working out really hard the last 5-6 years, but you know nothing really. You can't help a 70-year-old who can't get up and off the floor. You can't help a 50-year-old who, has had strokes. You don't know anything, but you're a sponge, and I'm going to teach you everything. So I'm working for this guy, and it's probably like October, November. He pulls me aside, and he's like, hey, I'm going to franchise my gym, and I want you to be the guy that takes over the second location. I think you can do this. I was like, dude, I'm going back to the NFL. At least I'm going to go finish up my contract in the AFL. My goal is still NFL. And he's like, no, you're going to get out of your arena contract. You're going to either A, franchise my gym, or you're going to graduate, go home, and start your own gym. Dude, you're crazy, man. Takes me out to Caribou Coffee right there in Chesterfield. We spend like
right next to S2.
6 doors down from S2.
Really? Yeah. So we go out and we sit there for
like
4 hours, and he basically will not let me go. And he's a big burn the bridges guy. He makes me call Coach Guy, cancel my AFL contract. And next thing I know, I started doing everything I could to basically get everything ready to come home and start my own gym. And it was like all of a sudden my life was changing. I'm now going to graduate college. I'm going to come home and start a gym. I'm learning a lot from him about training people other than football guys. And I don't know the last thing about business. And he gave me one piece of advice. He bought me my first book, and it was Be the Best at What Matters Most. I think it's Joey Galloway's the author. And basically the summary of it is you can do business a lot of different ways, but as long as you focus on one thing, that's being the best at what matters most, you're going to be successful. And the analogy he uses in the book is like hamburgers. There's some places you go, and they got a really shitty hamburger, and they got they got clowns blowing up balloons. They got all this extra stuff because the burger sucks. And there might be some people there. But then you're going to go to like some hole in the wall with cockroaches hanging out, going up and down the wall, but they have the best burger in town, and the line is out the door. And that's what they're doing. They're doing what matters most. They're making the best burger. And he was like, as long as you focus on this right here, be the best at what matters most, you can go home with 0 business experience, and you're going to be successful. I didn't know anything about taxes. I didn't know anything about filing an LLC. I didn't know anything about anything, right? All I could think about was be the best at what matters most. So I come home, and that's how I lived my, basically the start of it. So I come home, I start my business in 2015. And I just have Farkas's words at the back of my head, be the best at what matters most. And then this is the transition to Pride Fitness.
Tell me, go ahead.
Can I ask you something real quick? So
Yep.
To kind of back up a little bit, you mentioned when you left the NFL, it ended up not being exactly what you thought it was, and you noticed the politics of the NFL. What is that? How does that inform the way that you deal with players now that are going into college and dealing with NIL money? Because I look at NIL money and I'm like, well, that same thing that you kind of got a distaste for in the NFL is now in college football.
Yeah, it's polluting
in a big way.
College sports.
I think it's a blessing and a curse, right? Like I would have loved to have been paid NIL money at Linwood. So I think it's a good thing. I have kids at Power 5 schools right now that are not getting as much NIL money as because they're like true freshmen or redshirt freshmen. They got like 5th-year guys that were transferred in, got huge NIL monies, so big donors put money in their pockets. My kids are better as redshirt freshmen or true freshmen at Power 5 SEC baseball schools. They're better, but they're not getting the same playing time that they should because so-and-so is getting $400K NIL. And my guy, as a freshman, maybe he's getting like $30K. I don't know what it is. Only a couple kids told me what their NIL deals were. But it is affecting college sports because one of my kids, I can promise you, is a true freshman. And
that's the same problem that you ran into, at the Rams.
Yeah, and I think the hardest part about it is there's nothing you can really do about it right now with college football because there's no guidelines. You just got to show up, work hard. That's all you can do. And then if you end up being that guy that gets screwed on the NIL deal, you either A, stick it out for another year and grind, or you just go find somewhere where, they're going to treat you differently. But I mean, it's until college football or college sports in general fixes the whole NIL deal, it's just going to be happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Wild West right now there.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It's a blessing and a curse. I think it's good.
On the training side versus the sports performance side, because it feels like you guys are really leaning heavy in the sports performance category. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What do you like about the sports performance side of things in the personal training or group class format?
I think for us, it's the individual connection to each athlete and what they need. So in school, high school weights, everyone does the same weight program. Typically, every high school, the head football coach runs the weights, and it's the same weight program for everybody. So if I've got a attacker on the soccer team, a girl, she needs different workouts than the left tackle on the football team. If I've got a shortstop on a baseball team, he needs different training qualities than the right guard on the football team, right? But in the school weight program, everyone's doing the same exact thing. And don't get me started on the school weight program. It's been around forever. But I think what happens when kids come in, we get an individual connection with each athlete, right? What do they need? But then we really prioritize what are your training needs and qualities that need to be developed. And we're going to build workouts around what you need. So if you're a libero in volleyball, I don't care what you back squat, right? Like I'm going to work on your agility, your explosiveness, your RSI, your vertical jump. We're going to make you a better quick twitch athlete. And that's not going to be something that's prioritized in school weights. So I think kids really love coming in and working with us because we put their sport and where they are in their training journey front of mind. And I think that's what's really fun for us is individualizing the programs for the athletes and making it different. Because I always say, like, if you're, it's different at every high school, but, if you're not the star on the football team, it's very easy to get put on the back burner. Even if you're a great basketball or baseball player, but you don't play football, there are certain high schools where you're put on the back burner and they don't really care what you're doing in the weight room because the weights, one, probably don't benefit you as much as they could if you played football, but they're worried about their football guys. And so I think for us, by putting a priority on what they're doing in sports performance, it's sports performance. Soccer athletes, girls, have a higher chance of tearing their ACL than any other athlete. So we're going to do a lot of prehab stuff for our soccer girl athletes and their knees. Well, what are school weights going to do? We got back squat, front squat. We got all these things that are going to put a lot of tension on those areas.
Mm-hmm. Power clean.
Yeah, we're going to do a lot of things to help try and basically counteract what school weights are going to do if that's what they're going to do.
That makes sense. As far as, the future of Pride Fitness, where do you want it to go from here?
So right now we're in this transition period. Can we backtrack a little bit? Because this is kind of where, right? So 2015, I come home, I start training. I'm training basically all moms. The place I'm an independent contractor at, they're like, hey, you got a month to find your own place. And I had like 2 pieces of equipment. I'm driving Uber overnight from like 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. just to try and make money. Don't have enough clients. I'm sleeping in my Charger some nights, sleeping on the gym floor with yoga mats, just trying to put as much money back into the business as I can. And they're like, hey, you got a month to find your own place. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have enough money. So I call Farkas. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? He's like, you're going to look up every commercial piece of real estate around you, and you're going to call every single one of those agents, and you're going to sign your own lease within the next week. I was like, that sounds crazy. So you're going to burn your bridges, because if you sign that lease, you're now forced to find a way to be successful. Like, you have to now go do it. So, we end up getting into our own space at 12,000 square feet. Again, still a lot of moms or people who are working at home. And then that's kind of where we really grew until COVID. COVID really flipped things for us. My son was born in December 2019. In that time period, I was looking at banks, looking at possibly buying my own land or building our own building. COVID hits, I lose a lot of money. Obviously, the banks aren't looking to give out money to a guy who just lost a lot of money. My lease was up in June. I have a new son, and my landlord's like, hey, you have to sign a 2 or 3 year extension. And I'm like, I don't want to go bankrupt with my new son. Like, this is too much. I almost was this close going out of business. And I luckily found a lady like a block away going out of business, and I took over her lease. And we moved into an even tinier spot. And it was like 1,200 square feet, no windows, no AC, no heat. And it was just like, can we just keep our head above waters just long enough to figure out we're going to get shut down again? Are there going to be more restriction? Masks, no masks, needles, no needles. Blah, blah, blah. Everyone hates each other, right? I just got to figure out, are people going to come back in the gym? And that's when some of our baseball athletes started coming in, which changed everything for us. And in 2021, you know, I had a guy come in who believes a lot in me, and I look very, very much like a father figure. And he's like, hey, you have something special here with these baseball athletes. Why don't you build your own gym? And I was like, well, I thought about it at one point when I had some money, but now I don't really have a lot of money. And he's like, I'll tell you what, I'll take out a loan. I'll have all the risk. You pay the note on the loan. If you can't pay your lease, I'll kick you out and just store my machinery in there. But I'm going to give you this opportunity. So I'm going to help you build the gym, take the risk for you, and then we'll see if you sink or float. And that was 2021.
What's this guy's name so we give him the proper shout out?
It's Craig Porter. So it's actually
shout out Craig Porter, dude.
That's freaking awesome. It's my wife's uncle. So awesome. my wife's family is amazing. If you're in Kearney, Missouri, Porter Lumber Hardware, Mary Mac Porter Parks. That's my wife's family. Uncle Craig, I started training his son, Chase, who's now like a son, brother, both to me. And, you know, he's in there as a year younger than some of our really talented 24 athletes. And he's like, you got something special here. And I was like, yeah, well, you know, your niece, Mackenzie, she doesn't really want to take out this huge loan, because if I take out $1 million, $2 million loan, it doesn't go well. We're in some bad luck, right? And so he gave me this opportunity, and he basically was telling me like what you want. So we were looking at land in Kansas City, Liberty, Pleasant Valley. There's not a lot in Liberty. We wanted to avoid Kansas City, earnings tax. It's a nightmare to deal with, right? And so we get to the point where I'm like desperate. I'm like, oh my God, this feels so close. Like this could really happen. I could have my own building. And I'm just driving in Pleasant Valley, and I stop and I look over at this piece of empty land, and there's a sign that says commercial real estate, and the land looks like crap. And I look up her website, and it's on her residential website. So I didn't know if this was a commercial piece or a residential piece. So I send it over to Craig, and I'm like, hey, this is in Pleasant Valley, so it's got to be easy to deal with. It's got to be a little bit cheaper. So we find out that basically as Pleasant Valley was developed, everything developed around this one piece of land, and Quick Trip blew things up. And there was no sewer. There was a lot of like lines that weren't run through this area. So everyone who would try and buy this piece of property while it was cheaper, it would fall through because they couldn't figure out drainage. There was no plumbing. And Quick Trip didn't want the problem of when it rains a lot, our runoff going into their parking lot and screwing up things. And Quick Trip makes a lot of money, so they've got a lot of say in Pleasant Valley because there's not a lot going on there, right? So Craig had the idea of if we build the building this way, I'm going to build this grinder pump that takes everything around the building underneath the parking lot, and put it in a retention pond basically behind the building where the water would slowly seep out. So Quick Trip was happy. Pleasant Valley was happy. So Craig, just being the genius that he is, he develops neighborhoods, just an amazing human. He had a fix for basically everything. And so we got the land. We started building the building. Took a little longer than expected, but in June of 2023, it was finished. We moved in there in July of 24. My wife and all our family went down to the Ozarks. Me and like 3 of my clients moved what little gym equipment we still had from our tiny little square foot hole into a 12,000 square foot gym. And so all of a sudden we've got this huge weight room area. We've got 5.
Holy crap, we got to fill this thing.
Yeah.
10 times the size.
We're still trying to fill that thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We've got 5 batting cages. He got me a pitching machine to start. Yep. So, this place is massive. And so we go from this tiny hole in the wall with no windows. And Craig basically let me go through the process. And he's like, how do you want this gym to look? And I mean, there's some better videos that showcase the like size of the building. But, it's really awesome right now because, at 5:30 at night, we're going to have, 20 of the best high school baseball players in Kansas City, and some kids just trying to make JV, and they're working out, and then they're also going to go hit. But we also got adults working out too. And so what I do, we don't charge kids to hit as long as they're training with us. When was this? This was Oh yeah, this is when we were first releasing some of the stuff about how to get there. So, you know, a lot of places are going to charge you to hit or train or charge you to do both. I don't charge you to hit as long as you're training with me. Here's my philosophy. If I get you to run a faster 60, jump higher, your exit velocity goes up, your bat speed goes up, your arm goes up, but you can't hit a slider in tryouts, you're still cut. So I can make you this better athlete, and we will make you a better athlete. We're going to get you faster, I promise you. Just go look at our athletes. We always got the fastest, strongest, most powerful guys on every baseball team. But you can't hit a baseball, it does nothing. So I tell every kid, do your lift, do your sprint, whatever it is, go hit. Go hit for 2-3 hours.
And focus on the most important thing.
We encourage it. It's a culture, right? So if you go in there and you're doing our training and you're paying for our training and you don't hit, that's on you. We're giving you the opportunity. It's a culture. And guys have bought into it. And I think that's really kind of helped take us off. And so we had a baseball team. So as we were building this, obviously we were gonna be needing a lot of more than just training to fill the space. So Craig was like, hey, you need to go out and get some baseball teams to fill this place, rent the place out and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I don't want to deal with baseball parents and schedules and renting facilities. And so talking with one of our really, really, really good 14U team dads, he was unhappy with where his current team was. He's like, yeah, man, we're looking at trying to go somewhere else. And I was like, you know,
I know a guy,
and I need some teams in here. So we started a baseball team that works out inside the facility now. And, you know, I think the 14U team last year, I think they went like 93-7. And they got 2 kids on the team, three kids on the team that are already getting D1 interest. You know, I know one of them is, I don't want to say names because I don't want to put any coaches in trouble, but, you know, there's a couple kids that are starting on varsity in the Northland that are getting Tennessee, K-State,
and they're freshmen.
And Mizzou, yeah. And they're getting interest from coaches who are reaching out through back channels, through some MLB agents I know, and they're asking about these kids. And I know a couple of them are like ready to offer at the possibility. And the way that, you know, that we're going to kind of work things is if we've got a kid committed to K-State, hey, Jack Quetchenbach, you know, have Coach Conley come in here and watch you hit on one Saturday before you leave for your summer league. Oh, look at that. Would you just look over there, Coach Conley? There's that kid you were inquiring about. It's not illegal. You're here watching your kid. Just a little handshake. Why don't you come meet this kid over here? Mm-hmm. Right? So that 14U team wasn't talented. They brought over a couple amazing 8 and 9 8U teams. And that's where my son Jackson Jett plays on their 7U coach or machine pitch team. And that's helped take things off for us too, because that team practiced in the evenings when that 24 class that was, relentless is an understatement about how that group attacked it. This is a group of guys who went to the MLB and Power 5 as true freshmen, or they're doing great things at D2, at the best D2 schools. You know, they practiced while those guys were working out. So I'm a 8th grader. I've got a lot of talent. Obviously, they won a lot of baseball games. And it's 8 o'clock at night, and I look over, and Cole Gibbler's walking in the gym. He just threw 7 innings, 14 strikeouts, 1 hit against a really good opponent. And what's he doing at 8 o'clock at night? He's warming up. And he's about to go attack trap bar deadlift. He's about to go attack some reverse lunges. And he's going to go do everything he can to destroy his body, because he just destroyed it pitching, so that the next day his body can start to recover. So it's 9:30, 10 o'clock by the end of his workout. He just threw 100 pitches, from 4 to 6 o'clock. Went home, 8, came to the gym at 8 o'clock. And instead of resting, he's now attacking his workout. And those kids saw that. And they were like, that's the culture. So they bought into it. And now we've got these freshmen in the gym that are basically emulating a lot of what that 24 class is. And so it's pretty amazing as things are growing from the baseball side of things. That's our next step, is to continue to grow the 40 train baseball team, grow that, run hitting leagues and stuff outside of that. We've got the training stuff down. We've got an amazing training business. We're doing really good. We got a lot of amazing stuff planned for the summer. It's to continue to grow the baseball side of things, because for the first year and a half, the training business, which was at 1,200 square feet, was now responsible for the payment of 12,000 square feet, which was tough. So baseball, that's been growing. That's good. A national scout for the Colorado Rockies reached out to me and he said, hey, do you have a pitching coach in your house? I was like, no. He's like, do you want one? I was like, I've been looking for one. He's like, well, look, I got a guy who drafted out of high school. He's been with the Dodgers, Angels, and White Sox. I think he's looking for starting his own pitching business, but he needs a little, like a little talking. Mm-hmm. Brought him in there. Same time in my life of me going through the NFL. What am I going to do with my life? Right? We sit down, we talk, we have lunch. An amazing human. And, I'm like, this is the point where you basically burn your bridge. Stop trying to play like he'd been in the minors for a while. Burn the bridge. Come start your pitching business. I promise you I will do everything I can to help you be successful. My first year, I had 12 clients. Year 2, I maybe had 20, 25 clients. His first year, he had 40, 45 clients. And it's only going to grow from here. And he's an amazing human, right? So we're going to continue to grow that. So now our next step is, Craig, his son's going to Louisville. His son's a senior at Kearney. He's committed to Louisville, plays center field. Also got some MLB interest. He's got scouts showing up to camps or to games. So we'll see what happens in the draft process. Because he's like family to me, fingers crossed this is going to go the way it's supposed to.
He's actually family.
He's actually family. So, oh my God, that's funny that you say that because he got interviewed at a very big baseball tournament, and they were asking about who had a big influence in his life. And he mentioned Jeremy Jones, who owns Building Champions, a massive baseball program. He mentioned Jeremy Jones, and he said, and then Andrew Helmick, my strength and speed coach, he's kind of like family. Well, he is. It's my wife's, or he's like, it's my cousin's husband. So, I mean, he has family. He's kind of like family. And then I just did the exact same thing he did. So, so now I'm going to get roasted in the week for like the next week in the gym. But,
that's funny.
Craig is basically like, hey, I'm going to be in Louisville here soon. Or if he's drafted to an MLB team, he's probably going to go wherever he goes. The next step for Pride, we started to nail down this very fast in this new building. He's like, I want to build 4, 5 more of these. So now he started looking at properties outside of where we are. Mm-hmm. And he's nailing down where
OP.
So the Kansas area, I'm not sure what part of the Kansas area he's got. I think 2 locations there. He's looked at like Grain Valley, Lee Summit. I think there's some area around 435 around the KCK airport. That's like that area is really
like Legends or KCK area.
Yeah. So he's got properties that he's
ready to go.
Yeah. Like he's ready to go. He's like waiting on me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's days where I wake up and I'm like, we can have 10 of these across the Midwest. No problem. There's days where I wake up and I'm like, I'm still trying to figure out this first one that's 12,000 square feet, right? Like it's just the small business owner.
Totally.
The enjoyment of it. There's good days, bad days. But I think that's our next step.
That never fully goes away.
No, it's just always constantly going back and forth. But I think for us, it's to continue to grow the baseball team. And we have the right dads coaching some phenomenal young athletes that bought into the culture that the older guys set. So continue to grow that side of things and then build more locations.
Dude, I'm psyched for you guys. And also, cool. I want to go back to a little bit to the story of just, your 24 guy you were saying that, pitched 100 pitches and then did a workout that night, man. How proud were you of just having a culture where that felt normal to him?
Yeah. I just got the chills because if you've ever read the book Relentless by Tim Grover.
We both have.
Okay. It's like my Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cole Gibbler is the definition of that book. He hates everybody.
He's a cleaner.
He's a cleaner.
He's a cleaner. He'll tell you he hates everybody. He's got a twin brother, Nick, who's at UCM. His best friend is Grant Hollister, who's the one who went to Indiana. Now he's at UCM from Blue Springs South. He'll tell you he hates everyone except those 2 and me. And in the gym, he literally, so that 24 Royal Scout team loaded with Power 5 guys, right? All over the place. Tennessee, Indiana, Arkansas, crazy talent. He doesn't follow any of them on Instagram because he'll tell them, I don't like you. I got to compete against you. The week that Liberty North would play Blue Springs, Cole wouldn't speak to Trey, right? Trey's the one who was drafted by the Mets. He wouldn't speak to him. He wouldn't even look at him. And in Cole's head, he's thinking about everything Trey's ever said to make him mad. And he's just building up that motivation. That's my guy, Cole. Mm-hmm. So he's pitching at Arkansas as a true freshman, and he's getting a lot of innings. At one point, he, I can't remember what it was, but he was at 20-something innings and 40-something strikeouts. He was almost 3 Ks an inning as a true freshman. So that's the group that kind of really took things off for me. So Cole Gibbler there on the far left, he's pitching as a true freshman at Arkansas. Next to him is Trey who was committed to Tennessee. He got drafted by the Mets. That's Grant Hollister, went to Indiana. Now he's at UCM. That's Jackson Glick. He was first team all-conference in JUCO out in Arizona. That's your boy. That's Jackson Helberg. He's out at a school in Colorado. That's Titus Sissel. He was drafted by the Diamondbacks, so he's in their organization. And then that's Nick Gibbler. That's Cole's twin. He's at UCM.
How cool, man.
And that group really kind of set a culture. And there's other kids besides that group. That group, they wanted a signing day at the gym, and their parents put it together. And because they all played summer ball together since they were freshmen.
Yeah.
So the parents, boys. They wanted to do it, and they believed that I had a big impact in their lives. And so we had this big signing day for them. And it just is an amazing group. Like those two, like they're smiling right there.
Yeah.
I promise you the week that Liberty North played Blue Springs, Trey would be, Trey loves everybody. He's a very likable guy. Mm-hmm. Cole wouldn't look at Trey. He's thinking of all the things he hates about him and never said.
That's fun.
And I think Cole got the best of Trey that day too. But that's just kind of that whole group. It wasn't just Cole; it was that whole group. Trey could be doing the same thing, right? Like Trey could have, played a doubleheader. He was their leadoff guy. He might have had 9 at bats that day. He played shortstop, so he's getting a ton of balls his way. He after the game maybe went and hit with his hitting coach and hit for 7 MLB teams. And by the time he made it into Pride, same thing. It's 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And instead of making an excuse, he came in and worked out. And they did that 5-6 days a week.
That's incredible, dude. And especially for young dudes like that, that's crazy.
And those guys threw 100 pitch innings. They played every single day. Trey was the Gatorade Player of the Year. Cole was the Missouri Coaches Player of the Year. Grant was 4-time first team All-State. If you look at the record books per game, Grant Hollister is literally at the top of every single one of them. And you could say that same thing about all those guys. And that's just that was their mentality. And they played summer ball together. But when they all came in and started working out at the gym, they were all starting as freshmen on their varsity baseball teams. And they were already either the best or close to being the best as freshmen. And so the next thing I know, we've got a couple older Blue Springs South guys that are coming in because Grant Hollister comes in. All of a sudden, we've got some Blue Springs kids coming in because the Gibblers are coming in. We got Staley's kids coming in because Glick's coming in. We got Kearney kids coming in because Hillberg's coming in. The entire Liberty North High School comes in because Trey's coming in, right? And then all of a sudden, Addison Smith from Liberty is coming in. He went to Oklahoma State. Well, that brings in Carson Milbrandt, who got drafted, and he's with the Miami Marlins right now. Mm-hmm. And so now, basically, it fed the older guys to start coming in when they were younger, and they were hard workers. They brought in hard workers with them. They were a little bit older than them, and then they fed this culture to this. You can look up the 4D Train Cisnero group that has got some loaded talent. They got a shortstop.
This is the 14U team you're talking about.
Yeah. So there'll be 15U this summer. They got a shortstop that's starting at Liberty, and I think he's like the first or second shortstop to ever start as a freshman for Coach Bragg up at Liberty. Cam Gillespie. He's amazing. I think his ceiling is what he wants it to be. His floor is what he wants it to be.
That's awesome.
He's got that kind of attitude. He's got that swag. We call him Boogie. He's just a dog. We got a kid named Crew Patrick up at Staley. Staley is, besides Francis Howe, the best team in the state. They are loaded with Division I kids. They got MLB scouts showing up to games to watch kids. Crew going into the season was like, man, I think I'm going to get to PO, maybe get to hit. You just walk into the gym and watch this kid hit, and you just be like, no, that's not a 14-year-old. He plays almost every game now, and he as a freshman up there at Staley on a team full of Division I players, and he's amazing. And then there's just, I'm not trying to just highlight those two guys. There's a whole list of guys that are playing, 3-4 of them that are freshmen playing JV baseball at Liberty, and Coach Bragg's not known for taking guys up past freshmen because he wants them to get lots of reps on the freshman ball. There's guys at Liberty North. Quentin Nichols, he's the catcher for that team. He's their varsity catcher as a freshman at Liberty North. And so we're talking about kids who are starting again as freshmen on varsity for some of the best teams in the state.
Man, that's just crazy, the swell of talent you
guys
got
that group
right now, yeah.
Watched that group, and then now they're the culture. They fed that culture, and they're setting the tone.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see what they do, yeah.
Now in the gym, if you see a sophomore or junior who's like some JV kid and he's not picking up his weights, like we're big on pick up your weights. If there's some sophomore or junior who's being slack and not picking up his stuff, you'll see that freshman group, just like that 24 group did, you'll see them get on to kids like, hey, put your stuff away. Like, it's not our job to pick your stuff away. Just like when you get to college, no one's going to babysit you.
Culture of accountability.
Yeah. It's in season. The amount of kids that don't want to train in season because they think they're tired. No, when you get to college baseball, what do you think you're going to do in between games? Work out. What are you going to do before game, after game? Work out. That's what that group did. That's what this next group's doing. And we know it's a culture thing.
Man, we're so proud.
Cool.
We're so happy for you, man. Proud of what you've been able to do. It's been awesome getting to know you today.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. We have one question we ask every one of our guests, and that is, what
A
is
KC native.
the best barbecue in Kansas City? What is it?
Well, it's the green and white gas station. It was
Oklahoma's,
Joe's.
but now it's KC Joe's.
Now it's KC Joe's. Yeah.
That's your favorite?
That's my favorite one.
Top spot? You have a favorite menu item?
Slaps is good too.
Hey, that's
Like
my
slaps.
favorite.
But no, KC Joe's. I'm a brisket guy. I just like brisket. Give me sweet barbecue sauce. I don't like spicy stuff. Just give me sweet barbecue sauce. But I'm actually business partners with a guy named Les Spellman, and he's the speed coach for Trent McDuffie.
Oh, cool.
And he's also like the speed coach for like Brandon Ayuk and a lot of other NFL guys. Always has some of the fastest 40s. And I was at a conference with him in Dallas, and he was like, "Oh man, Trent brought me up to KC for one of your guys' games." He's like, "Man, all I hear about is KC barbecue," and he takes me to this little hole in the wall gas station. I'm like, "What the hell is this?" And he goes, "That's the best barbecue I've ever had." So I always stay in. That's my favorite barbecue.
Yeah.
But Slaps is a pretty close second.
It is.
It's really good.
It's
I also
very good.
think this is unpopular. I think we have some places that are popular that I think are not that good.
Well, Arthur Bryan's.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say it.
Gates.
I was gonna say it. Like,
Well, Gates, you said you like sweet. I'm the
sauce
same
is
way.
good.
The sauce. No, I think Gates
Gates.
sauce is not good because it's
Not
not
good
very
for my
sweet.
palate.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I like sweet sauce, which is why Oklahoma Joe's is good and Slaps is good.
Well, I'm glad Trent at least took him to a good spot.
Yeah.
Cool, man. And it's great to meet you. Let me,
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you, man.
appreciate you guys.
Where can people find you, man?
So we're in Pleasant Valley, Missouri. We've got two websites. One for our adults, pridefitness.fit. For our athletes, it's pridesportsperformance.com. We can find us on Instagram for the same thing. That's the same things as our URLs. We give everyone a free week. I tell everyone our results will speak for themselves. So we want you to come in, try everything for free. At the end of the week, you don't like it, no hard feelings. We'll see you. Like, we know the culture we are. We know like what we're going to do for you. So that's why we're going to give everyone a free week. And if you like it, let's get rolling. Tell us your goals. Tell us how you want to make JV. You want to hopefully be varsity one day. You hopefully want to play NAIA baseball, or you want to be an MLB draft pick, or you want to play D1 soccer. Tell us your goals, and we'll help you get there.
Love that, man. Thanks so much for being on here today.
Yeah,
Thank
man,
you very
appreciate
much.
guys.
Yep.